mental health and the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. And mental health has become much more a topic that is talked about in recent years, especially during COVID-19 or since COVID-19. But quite often people don't really know what mental health actually is. And mental health is all about emotions. We can also call them our feelings, our thoughts, and also how we interact with others. It affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. And now, having a good mental health doesn't mean being happy all the times. No, it's more about whether you have the tools you need to cope with life's challenges. To talk to us more about this, we have Jennifer Charlton, who is the project manager, and she is with Masiviwe Heartlines and the South African Anxiety Group, South African Depression and Anxiety Group. My queen, how are you?
I'm very well, and thanks so much
I love
for,
your
for having me
smile.
into the studio this morning. It's been a real eye-opener.
Is it still morning, my queen?
It is afternoon.
You drove in the morning. Time can really run, hey?
It can. I was so worried about that highway from Joburg to Pretoria,
Yeah.
and I did not want to be late and miss this opportunity.
Yeah, so I understand, my queen. Okay, welcome, and welcome to the Radio Pulpit family. I always say to new family members that are coming, new guests that are coming through, and I say, welcome to the family, not listeners. So we don't have listeners, but we have the family. So welcome to the family.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
If you say, listeners, they are going to strangle me. Oh, my head is going to be on the guillotine. But yeah, if you say family, then I'm safe. But I understand that Masiviwe and the South African Depression and Anxiety Group will be running a program with us for the next 12 weeks.
Yes, over the next 12 weeks, we're going to explore together a bit more about what mental health is, as well as some of the common mental health conditions and the strategies that we can use and the tips, things that we can do when we're struggling.
Tell us a little bit about Masiviwe. Who is Masiviwe?
So the Masiviwe movement, it's a group of organizations led by the Foundation for Professional Development, which is actually based quite close here in Pretoria. And we're all working together to try and make sure that everyone is heard. And that's Masiviwe. That's actually what it means. It's let us be heard, let our voices be heard. Because mental health is really an issue where there's a lot of stigma, where people don't know what it is, and people don't know how to access help. And so we've been working with various organizations, and one of them is SADAG, and they're the people that run the mental health call centers. So you get others, you get Lifeline, you get Childline, there are quite a few other organizations, but SADAG really has become kind of the go-to for 24/7 counseling. So, people can phone in. They receive actually over 2,500 calls, emails, and SMSs every day. And callers phone in. And they speak to volunteers in the main. It's a free service. And so you get a counsellor on the other end of the line who will support the caller by listening and counselling and providing information that they need to help them cope. Sometimes they need treatment elsewhere, and the counsellor will help refer them to where they need to go.
Sure. I've always had a South African Depression and Anxiety Group on air talking to us. At some point, we had SIPLA also talking to us because they are also involved when we're talking mental health. They are there. And most of the times you get calls from people who are like, okay, we need to talk to a counselor, but we are not quite sure how we're going to be received. And so you find a lot of people are afraid of calling because they don't know how the receival is going to be like.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's what we found when we started talking about what could we do
Yeah.
as Masiviwe to help just the general person out there, the person who doesn't know who to turn to and who doesn't understand, and they don't want to go somewhere with questions that they think might be stupid, and we just wanted to use this series to highlight that people could phone in, and this is what it might sound like if they phone in. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next 10 weeks of this. We've got real case scenarios of what it might be like if you had to phone in to a call center. And so the call that we're going to the clip that we're going to listen to in a moment will be what a person would hear. One of the actual lay counsellors sitting at SADC waiting to take a person's call.
Wow. So that is also to help people to come out and talk about whatever that they're going through. Talk to a counsellor and go past whatever that you're feeling scared and know how it would be like. Okay, let's give them an example. Don't you think so?
Yep.
Hi, I am Rose, a lay counselor from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. How can I help you today?
I feel like I can't breathe. I'm shaking. I feel like I'm going crazy. It feels like I'm going to die. My heart is...
Okay, maybe close your eyes. Put your hand on your belly. And now I want you to breathe. So I'm just going to count for you as you breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then now out. And then I want you to breathe again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And whenever you feel like this, I just want you to do this little technique that we just did now. And how are we feeling now?
All right. I can breathe now.
Okay.
Last time this happened, I went to the hospital. They told me it was a panic attack. But what does that even mean?
Okay. And maybe it's something that I can explain to you now. So a panic attack is when your body suddenly feels very, very scared. And this can also happen even when there is no danger. It can happen even when you're thinking about something that either worries you or just frightens you. And you find yourself having your heart beating very fast. It makes you feel very, very shaky. And like we just noticed now, it can cause you to struggle breathing.
Am I dying?
Not at all. And I know that it is quite intense and you feel like you are dying, but a panic attack does not kill you. But I know it can feel very intense because of the symptoms that you're experiencing at that time. But I want you to remember that you are safe and everything is going to be okay. After a few minutes, the symptoms that you're experiencing, they will definitely start to lessen in intensity. What happened before you started feeling like this?
I got to work.
Okay. And tell me a little bit more. What do you do?
I do piece jobs, carpentry, painting.
Okay, and what happened today?
The lady I've been working for told me she doesn't have enough money to pay me, that she can only pay me on Monday. So then I started thinking, how am I going to get home? I have no transport money and I must buy food. My little one also needs books for school. Then what if she doesn't pay me on Monday? What will I do? Then my heart started going fast and I couldn't breathe.
Okay, I hear you. And I can imagine that must feel very, very stressful because you have a lot of responsibilities that you have to manage. So it's understandable that you feel very overwhelmed at the moment. And many people experience panic attacks when they are very stressed and don't feel in control. It's not a sign of weakness or a sign of failure, but it's a sign of anxiety. And it also shows that what you're stressing about is very important to you.
It's not exactly a sign of strength, though.
I hear you. Thinking too much about the bad things or the things that might happen is what then contributes to the anxiety. This can then affect your sleep, making it very difficult for you to fall asleep, which affects your mood as well as really contributes to you struggling to relax or to feel calm.
Yes, I'm just thinking too much at the moment, which keeps me up late at night. When I try to sleep, I just start thinking and thinking about how I'm going to pay for all these things we need. I just keep worrying about what would happen if I hurt myself and can't work. How would we afford food or rent? My girlfriend says I get frustrated with small things. She keeps saying, why can't you just relax for 1 minute? Then I'm healthy. She says I mustn't stress so much that it is affecting our little one. But
Okay.
that just makes it worse as I get stressed now that I might be hurting my little one.
It's normal for us to experience stress, but when we feel stressed, most of the time it becomes very harder for us to manage life. It sounds like you have been struggling a little bit to manage the stress that you've been in at the moment, and it's getting a little bit too much.
And I don't know what to do anymore because I can't take it away. When I'm just thinking too much, I will have a beer. It makes me feel better for a little bit.
And it's understandable because sometimes we just want something that helps us to cope with the stress that we're exposed to. Even though I must say that drinking alcohol regularly, it can actually cause you to feel more anxious and more stressed, which is why it's important for us to find more healthier ways of coping with anxiety.
Like what?
And that's a good question. It's very helpful to see a professional, for example. A professional would be able to guide you in managing your anxiety and just getting to a point of implementing some coping strategies that you can use in the moment to help you manage the stress that you're currently exposed to. So maybe let's start by figuring out what you like to do to feel calm.
I like to go for walks around my area.
Okay. I like the sound of that. So maybe that's a great way for us to start in terms of just managing the difficult feelings when they do come, because exercise is also a very good way for us to cope with stress. And maybe now we can also look at things like your sleeping patterns, because I know that poor sleep can lead to a lot of worrying, and it's important that we break that cycle. Try doing something relaxing before you sleep, maybe like listening to calm music. Then try to avoid any screen time, because most of the times screens, whether it's through your phone, TV, or anything that has a bright light, it can actually interrupt your sleeping patterns. Do you think you might be able to try that?
Maybe I can try that.
It's normal for anxiety to come and go, but it's important that when it does come again, that you are able to utilize some of the things that we spoke about. So do you remember in the beginning of this call, we did some breathing techniques. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, that breathe 1, 2, 3, 4 you did?
Yes, exactly. Slowing down your breathing and focusing on your breath is a very good tool to help calm the anxiety at that point in time. There is support out there, and we need to make sure that we connect you with it. Support can look like taking medication. It can look like seeing a professional to actually gather, where are these thoughts coming from? What is causing me to feel anxious? And maybe coming up with ways to navigate that. But I also want you to maybe take a look at our website. So you can go on our website, which is www.sadag.org, which is www.sadag.org. And then from there, you'll be able to see a few techniques that you can utilize to be able to manage anxiety. But at the same time, because I know there is a medical component, or rather, there is a physiological component to anxiety, it's important for you to get professional help. So maybe we can look at a few places in your area where you can seek professional support. If you can just stay on the line with me, and then we can look at a few places. How does that sound?
Thank you so much. Sounds really, really great.
What you just heard was someone calling in who was struggling with a panic attack and potentially anxiety. I am Rose, a lay counselor with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and I work in the call center for our mental health helplines. I help give you hope and then link you to places where you can get the emotional help that you need. Lay counselors like us are emotional paramedics. We give you emotional first aid. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is when feelings of fear and stress do not go away and get in the way of your daily life. Many people, like our caller, who struggle with anxiety may also experience panic attacks. Some of these symptoms are like those of other medical conditions. Seek medical attention if you are not sure about the cause of your symptoms. Managing and getting help for your anxiety is important. Everyone copes differently, so it's important to find and practice what works best for you. For our caller, walking helped him feel better, but you, it might be a little bit different. You could try running, dancing, relaxation techniques, breathing exercises like the 1, 2, 3, 4 we did, meditation or prayer, or even maybe medication. But the first step is reaching out for help. And there is help out there. Talk to someone, a healthcare practitioner or an employee assistant practitioner if you have one at your work, or talk to a counselor at your clinic, or call a mental health helpline.
Wow, thank you so much, Rose, for helping us understand anxiety better and showing us some practical ways to manage panic attacks. I even found myself breathing along with you, you know. Did you find yourself doing that?
Breathing, yeah, no, I mean, breathing is absolutely essential. I found myself doing the 1, 2, 3, 4 before I came on air with you, because it's really important to be able to breathe when you've got to speak on radio.
Oh my. And sure, today someone is calling who is struggling with anxiety, and this is what they will be getting whenever they call our counselors at the call center. What's happening next week? Tell us a little bit about next week.
So next week we're going to be looking at the whole area of what is mental. I think some of our younger people are starting to cotton on to the idea of mental health.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes they battle to explain maybe to their parents or grandparents even, what is this thing about mental health? And so we want to give people the language to be able to talk about mental health and to realize that talking about mental health can be something quite normal, that it doesn't have to be done in a dark corner, that it's something that you can do with a friend, with a pastor, with any trusted individual. And then we also need to learn how to respond to people who come to us with mental health issues. It is a topic where you can quite easily say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so our episode next week will also talk about how, what are some of the things that you shouldn't say if someone comes to you who is struggling with their mental health.
Oh, and we need that. We need that. But for more information, Jennifer, where can our family of Radio Pulpit go to find out more about how they can get help in their areas?
Well, on our website, which is massiviwe.org.za, we actually have a feature which is a map, which we are building.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. And we are trying to put down on that map all of the places where one can go for psychosocial support. So we are, it looks a bit like a Google map with little dots all over it.
Yes.
But you can look in and see where there is somewhere close to you. And we also ask organizations, and I know that a lot of churches have programs. They have counselors. They and we appealing to organizations to send us their details, and then we can add them to the map as well. We're also on social media, Masiviwe ZA. And then to find out more about SADAG, you can go to sadag.org, as we heard in the call, or you can reach out and call them on their mental health helpline and And maybe today's episode has given just one person the courage to pick up the phone and to call 0800 456 789.
And I'm sure we'd love to hear the feedback next week, right? And their questions?
What we're wanting to do is to ask people to send in voice notes or a question. And then right at the end of the series, we'll dedicate time with a counsellor to answering as many questions as we can.
And next week, we're coming back again.
Next week, we'll be on with our mental health caller.
12:10 is the time that we will be on air again with Masiviwe. So until next week, remember, there's help and there's hope. You are not alone. Jennifer, thank you so much for talking to us today, for opening this so that we can be brave enough to get help for ourselves. Never die alone. And sometimes, like the caller thought, I am dying, only to find that, no, it was just an anxiety attack, and you can manage an anxiety attack. And there is help out there. So thank you so much for that, Jennifer. And my family, this program was supported by the Grant or Corporate Agreement number GHOO2393-3, funded by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The contents are solely the responsibility of the producers and do not necessarily represent the official views of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention or the Department of Health and Human Sciences. Make sure that you're there next week. You don't miss next week's episode.
This is